All right, everybody, how are we doing tonight? It is my pleasure to present tonight's Saturday Spotlight, the Tony Alva Story. Let's give it up!
To the Love Letters crew.
Sorry, Christian.
10 years, 10 seasons, you guys are the de facto encyclopedia of skateboarding.
Nobody else would do it.
Let's talk about how this thing turned from a sweet little love letter to this amazing piece that you guys created.
Steve Van Doren wanted to give a birthday present to Tony Alva for his 60th birthday. And so that's how it started, and that was, what, you're going to be 62 in September, right?
One day at a time.
Yeah, possibly. Anyway, that's how it started. Steve said, just a little project, and he said, maybe the thing Rick and I heard and Grosso heard, they said, maybe elevate it a little from your below cable access normal style, So like, all right, we'll try and bump it up a notch, get Josh Brolin in there, or whatever. Maybe get Hosoi in there to speak eloquently, instead of the big guy. But that was a joke, like Tony, it's funny that Tony mentioned the editing, because when it really switched from the normal thing that we usually do to something like a real deal, like, oh, okay, we're gonna make a real movie, was when our editor, Christian White, came in and devoted, this thing. Christian, how many hours did you spend in the edit room with this? Months and months, probably over 1,000 hours, just eyeball bleeding on this thing, and so, that's really how it elevated. You call in the big guns and you get big results, right?
Yeah, but one of the raddest things about it too is that there was a good chunk of not only the end of the film, but the stuff in between that was connecting the pieces, the parts, was shot like a week ago.
Yeah.
It was shot in an alley a week ago. Like the ending of the film was basically like 2 weeks ago in an alley 1 block away behind the liquor store from where I grew up as a kid. So, it's a trip, the way that my story has evolved, because it continues. The story's, it's not over yet, but as a matter of fact, I love to say this is something that, I share with guys like Steve Caballero and with Christian Hosoi. It's not what you've done, it's what you're doing. It's like, that's what tells the story. I mean, it's all good, all the stuff that we did, and the stuff with the partying and all that, what Jeff and I have been through and are still alive and in recovery, that's definitely a part of our story. But you know what? Those aren't the glory days. The glory days are tomorrow. The glory days are a week from now. The glory days are a month from now.
Let's get Steve Van Doren up here.
As Tony was saying, it's always evolving. I got a story just 2 weeks ago. There's a skater that we all know, and his mother was really worried about him up in Seattle. She hadn't been able to find him. Tony got involved out all the way down here in Southern California, found him. He was in Skid Row, got him there, got him in the hospital, got him some treatment, and he's going to come back now. But that's because what Tony's evolved to do. And Tony sent me a note saying, walking the same steps. So his path has already reached out and grabbed this young skater to try to save his life. And that's the kind of guy that Tony Alva is today. Super proud of him.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
That said, I'm going to ask you the question that the Hot Shots actor asked you 40 years ago. Tony, what do you think the peak age in years is for a skateboarder?
I can't really say, because the bottom line is I still surf almost every day. And then on a good day, I surf and skate in the same day. And I'm 61 years old. I decided, I have a joke with my soulmate, my girlfriend, my wife, as I would call her. But it's, I said, I'm born in 1957. So when I turn 57, I'm just going to turn the clock backwards and start to go back a year instead of forward. So I'm 57 for the rest of my life. That's kind of the way I look at it. That's my number, 57. So, the reason I bring up that story is because if you want to know the truth, and you take it from a guy that's living it and that's lived it, age doesn't mean that much. The number doesn't mean shit. It doesn't fucking really mean anything. all it means is that you've spent that much time on this planet, but the bottom line is that, like I said in the end of the film, it's right here. It's your heart. Where's your heart at, you know? And where's your soul connected to that part of you, you know? Actions speak louder than words. Go out and skate. Go out and be connected to that heart that's beating so hard for the joy of life, for the joy of having one more day. You know, go out and basically do God's will for one day by going and finding Skylar on Skid Row and getting him into Cry Help, and maybe saving somebody else's life because you have the experience to where you used to be a drug addict and alcoholic, and something happened for you that was good and saved your life. The only way that you can keep that is to give it away. So that's something that I share with my brothers, you know, that are in the front row here and stuff too. You know, we have a spiritual connection. You know, I don't have any other priorities in life other than really just that main motive is that I want to live life to its fullest and live it clean and sober and have a consciousness that is higher than high, higher than any drugs or alcohol that I've ever been able to use in order to get to that level.
And I'm just wondering, did you ever apologize to Stacy Peralta for cutting him off on that wave?
Fuck no, and I never will.
But none of us would be here without Jeffrey Blaine Grosso and the love letters. 10 years in,
Gotta throw the middle name in
I
there.
don't know any other Blaine, so I use it as...
Thanks, Bob.
What does this film mean to you?
It was really fun to make, man. You know, I love skateboarding. Well, what do you want from me? Like, you know, and he's ground zero, like we said in the movie. You know, Steve wanted to do a little short piece for his birthday, and love letters are generally, you know, in 10 to 12 minutes or something. You know, and we got into it, and the more people we talked, the more excited we got, and it just kind of blossomed into what you all watched. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. A lot of shit gets slung around about, like, you know, we're not National Geographics, we're not skate historians, we're just trying to entertain, you know, and stoke some people out who might be hurt and want to get back on their boards, or maybe it's snowing out or whatever, you know, like I said in the piece, in the downtime. You know, it's skateboard pornography for skateboarders, which, you know, if you don't skateboard, you know, I don't know how interested you would be in looking at different colored wheels and the stickers and stuff, but that's our jam, and, you know, that's our lifeblood or whatever. So, yeah, man, it was a fun little journey, man. He's led an incredible life, and he truly is a pioneer. There never has been. It's like, how far can you go, you know, and do you want to? You know, like, I spent a lot of time like ruminating about whether or not I wasted my life. You know, whatever. I'm an emo freak, and you know. But then I look at some of these gentlemen that I've looked up to since I was, you know, 9, 10 years old, and God, it's just the best, man. Skateboarding fucking rules. That's all.
Basically, though, there's one thing, you know, that wasn't in the film that's really important in my life is when I was 19 years old, I won the men's overall world professional skateboard title. So I was the best skateboarder in the world competitively. I took the trophies, the check, and all the stuff, and I took it home. I was a latchkey kid living with my dad. And my dad's name was Refugio Alva Jr. He is a Mexican-American, like just a tough love guy, a hard ass, you know, but a hard worker too, you know, an alcoholic, a workaholic, you know, the whole deal. But I showed my dad the trophies and the money and all that, and I go, look, Dad, I go, look, I'm gonna be a professional skateboarder. And my dad just looks at me and goes, He goes, there's no future in that. And that was it. That's where the flame went from like a little match to a fucking volcano. And it's probably one of the best things my dad ever said to me, if you want to know the truth. Because the rest of my life was like, I'll fucking show you. You know? And it's pretty insane. It's pretty cool though in a way. And it brings me back to, you know, like what Jeff just said. Did I waste my life? You know, is my life really like what I wanted it to be? Did I really do what I wanted to do? There's no doubt in my mind, not even for 1 second, that what I've done and what I'm doing, and the fact that this story tells the influence that I've had on guys, the most important skateboarders ever in the history of skateboarding, guys like Christian Nieratko, guys like Mark Gonzalez. I mean, the list goes on and on. Some of the guys aren't even around anymore, you know, but I'm just gonna tell you, to be a mentor and a true role model is about evolving, and it's about like having the courage to change, and it's about doing what you really love and doing it because it comes from your heart, you know, and this is the story, and this is what we're sharing with you. And the cool thing is that Buddy and Charno, when I met Charno, I mean, Charno's out of his mind. He still is out of his mind. But the bottom line is that when we met, because we were skateboarders in Philadelphia and on a crazy just, you know, day where he was running and hitting potholes on purpose and stuff, just to like, for adrenaline, we had a connection. We had a connection as brothers because we both rode skateboards, because we loved it. And that's the connection I have with Jeff Grosso, everybody that's up here, Steve Van Doren. This guy is the ambassador of fun, and one of the most amazing things ever was that Caballero and Christian and I were in Italy in freezing ass cold weather, and we had a line of kids outside in the cold. There was 1,500 kids probably in Milan on a freezing winter day, and they just wanted to get a poster signed by a legend. Well, Steve Van Doren went out in the cold with a little tray of appetizers and stuff and went up to every kid in that line in the freezing cold and made sure that nobody left without getting their poster signed, and he was bringing them food and bringing them snacks and saying hello to them and shaking their hands and giving people like love, you know, like straight up family value love from VANS. And that's how we got things done. That's how we got this film done. That's why guys like that are 50, 60 plus years old are still active professional skateboarders, because we've got a guy like Steve Van Doren that believes in us. And we believe in him. And there's no doubt when it comes to the faith and the hope and the love and tolerance as is exemplified in his life, the way that he lives, that it doesn't reflect back on me, every team rider of VANS, every employee that works for, and everybody up here on this panel.
Well, my question is for you and Buddy. You guys have the uncanny ability to find the craziest footage, the rarest skate footage. I can only imagine the stuff that's on the cutting room floor in general, but about this film, any stories that come to mind that didn't make the cut that were just epic?
Well, the floor is so filthy in our studio.
Yeah.
Not the cutting room, just the floor in general. Toxic environment.
We are, you know, we've been doing this so long, you know, and we still miss things every day. Yeah, and it takes a really long time. Like that thing that you saw there probably took 4,000 hours to make, that 1 hour. And that, if you spend that much time, I mean, you saw there's probably 1,000 photographs in that, you know, and they're almost all one dude. And we do this every day. We edited, Rick and I, we were editing until 4 o'clock today before we came here on another project. We edit every day. And we work our fucking asses off. And we to tell the story, you know, and like I joke, you know, when you said something about us that was nice, I said, you know, nobody else wants to do it. Nobody else has signed up yet. We've been doing this shit for 22 years. And not once has anybody ever said, hey, I'd like to take a crack at that. Let me try. So we're fucking stuck. We're stuck doing this shit because it's important. And, you know, like, we gotta do it. Because if we don't do it, like, seriously, dude, it's Tony Alva, like, one of the greatest skateboarders of all time. And it took these two numbnuts to make a movie about him, you know? So it's like, if it's not happening here, the worry is that it's not gonna happen at all. And that's a fucking tragedy. You can't let that happen, so.
I do need to ask you, because I almost shit a brick when I first saw the Alva clothing footage.
Gotta make those roller skates.
We gotta make those roller skates. Tony, did you call bullshit on those guys when they presented that to you?
Yeah, that's where it started to really go sour, is because basically it just infuriated me that they took it to that level, and I was just starting to like really get in Zender's face and shit, tell him too. I was like, look, you guys are taking it in a direction where you're gonna fuck everything up, you know? And it happened, like, it's not like the affirmation was, you're gonna fuck things up, and then it just died the next day. It didn't happen like that. It happened gradually, but what happened was they got off track. They went in a commercial direction. We got orders that we couldn't even fill. I had absolutely nothing in common with the designer of the clothes. Just the whole scene just got really like new wave and really like just janky. And I didn't want anything to do with it. And it happened again later with another business partner that I had. I won't mention his name. But after the posse fell apart and stuff, it was mainly because my partner took it in a direction where he named part of the company New School and started basically sponsoring like all these kids that could not even like basically do a carve in a pool. And the business fell apart again, you know? So those are relationships that I've been through, to where when people went against the grain and went in the direction that I didn't want to go, I just went in the direction that I was always going, and I was in a progressive direction. And I left regardless of how much money was involved or how much, there was nothing left for me except just to keep skating, you know? I didn't do it for the fame, I didn't do it for the money, I didn't do it for anything other than just the pure thrill and the essence of riding a skateboard. And that's the way it should be.
We'll jump from that time period to one of the raddest moments in skateboarding is the Alva Posse photo. What's the story behind that photo? Walk us through that day, talk about it.
Well, we were all together for once because, similar to what Eddie said, you know, a lot of the times when I sent the team out, I wouldn't go with the fucking team out there to Australia and stuff. I didn't want to be on those tours with those guys. It was madness, you know. And I already had some other things going on because of the fact that, you know, my life is like, I was only as sick as my secrets. I had a lot of secrets at that time, and I didn't even want to share them with the posse, you know. And it was just that feeling of like, you know, just anger, you know, and that stuff that was fueling inside of me that I didn't know how to deal with except by using drugs and alcohol, you know. So I would send those guys out like the soldiers, and they would do what they got to do. But the one time that we were all together and all skating and having a really good time was in Chicago, cold day in Chicago. We went up on the roof of that building where the brick building was, and we were all together, and Steve Snyder and Jesse Newhouse was there. Jesse got cut out because he was an amateur at the time. He was just a little grown little kid, but there's outtakes where Jesse's in the photo too. And he's probably the most iconic skateboarder to ever come out of Chicago. So shouts out to Jesse. But that photo came out beautiful, and it was a moment, you know, it was just that moment that he captured, that where the team was representing not only themselves individually, but representing the team as, like Murph said, an American family. And that's what you got. You got a photo of a bunch of guys that are skateboarders and badasses, the Harley, you know, like the Hells Angels Harley riding skateboarders of skateboarding, but they're a family. We're all brothers, you know.
I'll wrap this up. I want to end this by speaking to the most special man in the room. Jeff got us here tonight, but the reason that skateboarding is where it is today is because of skateboarding Santa Claus, the friends of skateboarding everywhere, Mr. Steve Van Doren. And I just want to pass the mic down the row to everyone on here to give their best Steve Van Doren story. I'm privileged enough to see him in the office all the time and get psyched every time I see his face. He's a very special man. I'll let you guys talk.
First video job I ever had, I didn't even know how to turn the camera on. Warped Tour 98, Van Doren, and Kevin Lyman said, go do it. I didn't know what I was doing, so thanks for my first job.
My pleasure.
I've seen him take the team out for dinner, and before the team arrived, order everything that had cheese on the menu and have it at the table before anybody got there to eat. That was pretty amazing.
I would say that I was at Rick's first premiere of the Warped Tour movie. What was it called? Punk Rock Summer Camp?
Death Hold downtown.
No, Punk Rock Summer Camp.
Punk Rock Summer.
1998 or 99 at the
98.
Combi. Ice-T was there at the premiere. That was pretty cool. But it was the first. It was just seeing Steve for the first time. Oh my God! There's VANS. It's named after a person, and that guy.
There he is. He's
There he
alive.
is. And then see him at every single event that VANS does, or you know, and you go, wow, you know, this guy cares and loves skateboarding and has, you know, we always say when we do love letters, you know, we put people that ride for any company in there, you know, we don't care. And we say, you know, VANS is skateboarding. So anybody can be in it. Anybody can be in love letters because VANS is, they are the history of skateboarding. And just that there's a human being that is in charge of that is, to me, the coolest thing about Steve Van Doren.
Thank you.
I told my story about him already, and there's no other CEO in the shoe business today that would do what Steve does. I mean, Steve has a heart of gold, you know, and it shows in his actions. You know, actions speak so much louder than any words. The thing with Steve is, Steve's taught me how to be a part of a family. I've always been from dysfunctional families, you know, and I still don't even get along with my own family. But I get along really well with Steve, and you know, Steve's like a big brother to me, and he's a mentor to me. You know, he showed me like what it's like to really work hard and do it for the right reasons and be of service, and then you know that will come back to you in so many ways, you know, and that's what he showed me. Steve is like, I'm family to Steve. I wore my jacket tonight that says we're all Van Dorens, and I'm proud to wear that jacket, you know. It's just like wearing a Zephyr shirt, you know. I'm proud of that. And the other thing is that he's basically given opportunities to guys like Robert Vargas and to Christian Asoy and Steve Caballero and Jeff Grosso, and the list goes on. I mean, he has given our careers an extra decade, if not more, of longevity because of the fact that there is no limit to what you can do in his eyes. When I was still getting loaded and stuff and going to bars, getting beat up, getting in fights with the security guys, and like, Steve would make sure that I still got on the plane and made it home safe. He would come and pull me out of bars or like bail me out of jail if he had to. He would always make sure I had my own hotel room so that nobody else had to put up with my shit. You know what I mean? But that's Steve, you know, he did that for me then. So in other words, what I'm saying is, he still believed in me even when I was in my lowest, just gnarliest part of my life, which I would call my disease. You know, when I was in my disease, he still believed in me. So, to make a long story short, when I had the courage to change and I got clean and sober and he watched me change and evolve, Steve really believed in me then. And then the responsibilities that were bestowed upon me were like these beautiful gifts from, as you would say, the ambassador fund, the Santa Claus of skateboarding, whatever you want to call him. You know, I call him Steve Van Doren, SVD, the man. He's the guy.
Thanks, Tony. It's been a pleasure the last 13 years. since he's been sober, but I have to thank you, everybody that's here, everybody here, because you, all the skateboarders, adopted us. My dad started in '66, and about '74, '75, Tony, Jay, Stacy were going into our stores and buying our shoes. And we started flowing some shoes. Tony would wear out one shoe, so if the shoes were $6, you can have that for $3, no problem. Eventually we started giving the shoes to him, but because of the skaters, we're here in 2019, being able to be a company that my dad started. He's 88, he just went on a trip with me over to Europe for the first time, with having a great time and taking him over there so he could meet people, but it's because of watching Tony, Steve, Christian, all of our riders all these years take the time and sign autographs and say hi to kids one-on-one, that we as VANS are still alive today. It's because of skaters, it's because of everybody here. You go to any of our board meetings, anything, everything always goes around skateboarding. Whatever our purpose is you guys out there around the world adopted us, and I'm fucking loyal to you forever.